radio.com, 746. It is 14 away from 8 o'clock. Good morning. He's Bob Pollock with us from the Extension Service, and it is a Friday morning. A chance for you to have Bob answer your lawn and garden and other questions having to do with trees or anything else that you have in the plant world. Our visit with Bob, presented by Marcus & Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online, marcusandmack.com. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. There is a freeze warning today, and there's a frost alert as well, and people might be dealing with that today. So the question becomes: is that the official signal for the end of the growing season?
It could be.
Does it depend on how much frost or how thick the frost is?
Yeah. This really wasn't a. Now there were spots, I'm sure, where some things will start to wilt down, but it's cool enough. And the trend now is that, things are cooling off, so plants are going to start to, if they haven't already, start to decline, especially some of the, perennials, the plants that normally die back. Of course, the annuals don't like this weather too well.
Yeah.
So, it's a signal. It's a sign that things are slowing down. Of course, we definitely noticed that the days are getting shorter. And probably have noticed that it's a little chilly too.
Yeah, that's true.
But all those things are signals that, plants are going to start to move to prepare for winter.
Yeah,
lose their leaves, stems die back. So we're in that time frame where we can start to, especially on some of the summer blooming perennials. You'll start to see the leaves yellow, or, daylilies is a good example because you'll lose a leaf here, a leaf there, as the summer goes on. And then the dry weather effects also will hasten that decline. But still, I have a few daylilies that still are hanging on, and green foliage, and some of the bottom foliage has died off, and you just take that out and you still have a green plant there.
Yeah.
But at this point, a lot of those plants should have gained enough energy to put back into their root system so that they can survive the winter well, and come back next year. So at this point, some people will start cutting some of those things back because, they can start to look ragged. And you may say, I'm done with that for for now. And then the leaves, when the leaves start to fall, some of those plants, tend to be collectors of leaves. And that can make it hard to clean beds out and do those fall chores.
In the garden, if folks have tomato plants that have survived, maybe they've covered them, and there are still green tomatoes on there, how likely is it that those tomatoes are still going to ripen for them?
There's still a good chance. We're going to be in the 60s.
Yeah,
it looks like the trend is, the low to mid 60s and, 40s at night. So it definitely will slow things down. It will take longer, but hey, as long as it doesn't freeze, they'll still.
Yeah, I didn't know about length of days if there would be.
Oh well, that that also slows things down. They will not ripen as fast. You can be looking at them and they're green today, they're green tomorrow, and
green they will stay.
Yeah, for a while. It just takes longer.
All right, so a little cold weather stuff for us. And there's really nothing we can do with trees or shrubs or anything like that. It's just that's the way the growing season progresses. Yes?
Right. Yep. It's time for all those plants to be preparing to go into winter dormancy. Of course, evergreens maintain their foliage, and so there will be activity on those plants as long as the ground isn't frozen. And of course, once we get down into the soil temperatures down into the 40s, then things pretty much come to a grinding halt, until the ground gets frozen. But so things will function at a much slower pace. And that's where when we go into winter on those evergreen plants, they need to have enough moisture, in their root systems, in their needles and leaves to be able to survive over winter and to be able to take, cold winter winds. That when we get that blows against those needles, and causes them to lose moisture. So they still have to be able to function enough to hold on to those leaves and keep moisture in them to survive.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So gardens, lawns, trees, shrubs, they're all entering a whole new season of being.
Yeah, well, in the lawn, we haven't had to mow very much.
No, that's true.
We haven't had enough.
Since July.
Yeah, we haven't had enough rain. Things just picked up there a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but still not, not a lot.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of rain, and then now we don't have any again. So.
Long-time ramifications from the extended dry weather, because it was very, very wet
Yeah.
into June. Then it was sort of like a normal summer, and then it got very, very dry August and September, and so far in October, there's been very, very little wet stuff coming out of the skies. Long term, as we look into next spring, and we always think about water tables and recovery of water, and you look at some of the big lakes like Keystone or Yellow Creek, you see them drawing down a little bit. How necessary is it for us to make that up in the wintertime?
Well, pretty necessary. We want to be ready for next year, and you never know what's going to happen and how long the dry spells will last, or the wet spells will last for that matter. But yeah, you always kind of want to go into spring with the water tank full, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like filling up your vehicle before you go on a trip. You want to have it full because you don't know what you're going to run into along the way.
Sure.
So, yeah. And, from this season being so wet early and then being so dry, especially trees and some shrubs as well, we don't know how much stress, has been put on those at this point. So we might not see the effects of this year's, weather until next year or maybe the year after that, because those plants become stressed. They may not get hardened off as much as they should for winter, and so that kind of puts them back a little bit, or that those stressors are still there. And so next spring, depending on how the winter goes, how cold we get and how much variation we have in temperatures and moisture, then next year the leaves may not be as big, or the tree may not be as full. Some of those buds may die, or they may not form, as well as they should. So oftentimes especially with those perennial crops, it might be a year or two down the road before some of the effects of that, or dieback is another thing that we can get on, and it might be just here or there within the canopy, but those things, and you may forget, or you may not think back to when those actual stressors were. All you see is, there's not as many leaves on this tree this year, or they're not as big as they normally are. Mm-hmm. So if we trace that back, we might be able to come back to this year and say, well, yeah, that's could be when that all started.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Things that we think about at this time of the year. We also think about we were talking about this a week or so ago, about bringing some of those outdoor plants inside, things that we've kept out on the patios and the verandas. And
hopefully you got that done.
Because it is time to do that.
We're about right on normal schedule for when we should have a cold snap.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just always hits about this time.
Mm-hmm. And we do this every year. Poinsettias and Christmas cactuses, if we want them to bloom at the right time and turn the right color at the right time, this is the time they should be in the dark.
October.
Right?
Yep. Start that process now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially if you're wanting that to happen around Christmas time, then now's the time to work on that.
Total darkness?
Yeah, total darkness. At least 12 hours.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And by
uninterrupted. You interrupt it, then that you gotta
resets
the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, resets the cycle.
Yeah.
And that's every day.
Do a lot of people still do that? I mean,
I don't.
for a lot, it's
That's one of
it's a
those
plant that I can go get at the
Yes.
local garden center and just throw it out at the
One
end
of
the year.
those mainstream plants that really, unless you're really into that or into the plants and working through that cycle and having the satisfaction for yourself, to put that plant to run it through its growing cycle and produce the bracts. You're going to go to the store and grab one or two or three. Because the people that grow those have that system down.
Yeah.
They
know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So some gardening news for you today, or gardening advice, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
All
Anything
right.
else we need to know about growing season or freezing season?
We've talked in the past some about, some of the insects, the beneficial insects that we have around. So as we're maybe cleaning things up, doing some of those fall chores outside and cutting some of those perennials and things back, I think just remember, we don't have to clean that stuff all out. If you have a spot where you can take pieces of stem, there's some of those insects and some of those bees that will get in and bore into the stems. Some of the plants have hollow stems, or some have softer, pithy material in there, and some of those insects will use that as a place to overwinter. So it's okay to cut those back. You maybe leave a little bit more stem there instead of cutting them all the way back to the ground, or cut them back, but leave a little pile of that material somewhere where it's maybe hidden. But those insects will find that. And that can be an overwintering place for them, to keep them local.
Make them a
keep
tent.
them in your microenvironment there.
Make their own little campsite.
Yep,
Thank you,
that's
Bob.
right. You're welcome.
It's Indiana in the Morning. It's WCCS.